make it. He's seating. But Dad didn't say anything.
Oh, we got a quorum, so.
Got enough, I guess.
Yeah, we got skipped out on our county commission meeting in Sioux Falls and came home.
Oh, yeah? Everybody up there today, or was it just you?
Statewide.
Okay. Well. Please turn your microphones on.
All right, 7 o'clock, so we can call the meeting to order. Do a roll call when you're ready.
Excuse me. Barkle.
Here.
Loest.
Here.
Kettering.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Michael. Weiss.
Here.
Clark.
All right. Everybody got a chance to go over the previous meeting's minutes? Unless there's any changes, I need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved. Loest.
Second, Nelson.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. Looking over the agenda, is there anything to be added?
No, we do need to make two subtractions.
Okay.
The Stoudenmeyer plat, they weren't not able to get all their signatures, so we're going to remove that. And the Jorgensen plat again, we'll remove that from the agenda.
Was the Jorgensen plant, that was on last month as
Yeah,
well,
they
wasn't it?
still haven't been able to get all the signatures.
Okay. Okay, so we got agenda amended to remove the two plats. Other than that, there's no other changes. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the amended agenda. Loest.
Second.
Have a motion. I thought you were second, Kathy. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion carried. Conflict of interest declarations. Kathy, you can start us off.
None. Nelson, none.
Kettering, none.
Barkle, none.
Loest. None.
All right. Now, first agenda items at 7:05. Since we're taking off, I suppose we can't do the land and cattle for plat until that one is completed. So we could do the James Schwach revocable trust plat, if you want to take care of that quick.
Sure, that's just farmstead. Let me see here. Come on. What in the world?
There.
So, they own a large parcel and they are taking the farmstead, which is 10.17 acres out. Section 503 or 513. Pretty straightforward. I'll show you on the map where it is. Right here. There's our man.
Hello. Thank you for calling in. We'll put you on speaker. See how to do that?
Should just be
This is a new phone.
This on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimmy there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank
We're-
you.
I'll let you know when we're to your application.
Okay.
So this is the Schwag plat. They surveyed off the entire homestead or farmstead here, 10.17 acres. It's in ag, just beyond the ETJ here. For reference, here's the airport.
And that got all the buildings in.
Yep.
Well, I'd entertain a motion to approve the plat, unless there's any other questions.
I move to approve the plat as presented.
Second.
All right, motion and second, we can vote when you're ready.
Barkle,
Yes.
Loest,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we can move on to the first agenda item, 705, Yankton Land and Cattle rezone. Applicant is requesting to rezone a parcel in rural transitional to commercial district per Article 18, Section 1809, and Article 20, Section 2003. Said property is legally described as Lot 4 in the northeast quarter, the southeast quarter of Section 24, Township 94 North, Range 56, west of the 5th PM, Yankton County, South Dakota, containing approximately 3 acres, more or less, Utica North.
So Yankton Land and Cattle owns all of this, including this strip and this strip. It's dual zoned. They've created a plat to separate this piece and rezone that to commercial to make it conforming. The rest will stay as it is. And again, we did try to get these people to think about it, but they didn't want to.
Is that one square the truck stop or what?
Yep, that's the truck stop.
Double D.
This is the cell barn.
Yep.
It's just kind of this backwards 7-shaped piece that they've platted off, and that's what we're trying to rezone. Fits in with everything around it, basically. Makes it conforming.
And commercial lots are half acre.
No, they're 1 acre, aren't they?
1 acre, I believe.
Are they 1 acre?
So they are, that'll conform then too, yeah.
Why do I have half in my head?
Now, is it the same owner for the other commercial zone district
No,
there bordering it, or that's a different owner?
no. I think they own some of this too.
Mhm.
But it's just this entry, this big piece that's zoned ag, and then that backwards 7. This is, I believe, Marquardt,
Yep.
and the truck stop.
Okay.
And Mike Stevens is here if you have questions.
All right. Mike, did you want to come up and present anything, or?
No, I think, part of the reason that it wasn't done sooner is that they were in the process of doing some changing, buying and selling between themselves, and so that was still up in the air, so when they finally got that all resolved, then now they're down to different owners, they've reduced the number of owners, and now they're in the process of taking care of it. So that's the reason why there was the delay in doing that sooner.
Okay. Did you get any other input from the public, Bill, or?
One person wanted to clarify where it was, just to be sure. Other than that, no comments.
All right. Don't see anybody else here to make a comment, so I'll close public comment. I guess just going through the checklist. We've got all the documents that are required, completed, fees are paid. Conditions that require a rezone. I guess it makes it more conforming with the area around it, and being rural transitional, that was the intent to start with, is that it would eventually get rezoned to something
Correct.
else.
And it's zoned the way it is. There's really not much they can do with it.
Right. And then, it's not gonna create any special circumstances or anything for the applicant or anybody around it, not gonna create any special privileges. Notice was sent, we're having a public hearing. Reasons set forth is just so that they can use it as a commercial zone,
And it's conforming with everything. yeah,
make it
with everything.
conforming. Change in zone will make it easier to actually use the property for something, so that would be 5B. 5C, I guess we already went over, it's gonna make it similar to the area around it. 5D, it's not going to injure anybody in the neighborhood. Don't see any issues arising from that, and the lack of public comment, I would say nobody else sees it either. For number 6, basically they can't use the property for anything till it is rezoned. I think we went over reasons for rezoning and the findings. Conforms with our zoning district regulations. Ingress, egress, not gonna change, not any of the utilities, refuse areas, any of that stuff is going to change from current use. Is there anything else anybody has to add?
Makes sense.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve based on findings of fact.
I move we approve the rezone request.
Lowe, second.
All right, motion and a second. We can roll call vote when you're ready.
Barkle,
Yes.
Loest,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Next agenda item is American Tower Corp. Thanks, Mike. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to co-locate a new wireless carrier on an existing tower in an ag district per Article 25, Section 2503. Said property is legally described as the west half of the southwest quarter, excepting parcel A in the north 150 feet of the south, 776 feet of the west, 370 feet, and tract 2 Lucas Addition in the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, and accepting tract 1 Lucas Addition, lot 4 in the southwest quarter and the southwest of the southwest quarter, all in section 31, township 96 north, range 55 west of the 5th PM, Yankton County, South Dakota. 911 address is 29654 US Highway 81, Irene, South Dakota.
So for reference, this is the intersection of 81 and 46. Here's the way station. Right up here is the tower, existing tower. They just want to co-locate a new carrier on it, which is part of our idea of having less towers and more co-location. So that's what they're asking to do.
All right. I guess, Jim, now if you'd like to make any comments on this, you're free to.
Sure, no, I mean, if anybody has any questions, we're just looking to co-locate T-Mobile on our existing tower. The new antennas will be installed at the center line of the 285 foot mark, just below the antennas that are existing already on the tower. Aesthetically, you'll obviously see a few more antennas, which will be a total of 3. However, it shouldn't really make much of a difference aesthetically. Anybody have any questions for me?
Oh, I guess I don't see any here. Seems pretty straightforward.
Pretty easy for you.
Yeah, that's, I've had work. I'll tell you that.
Well, we thank you for your investment.
No, I mean, the more coverage we can put out there, the better. I think people like it when their phones work.
So Bill, did you get any public input on this one?
Nope.
And seeing there's nobody here tonight, I don't foresee any more public input for now.
I don't think most people even know it's happened when it's done.
Then once the tower's in place, you don't
Yeah.
notice it
No.
anymore.
Don't
As
look
long
up.
as they mow,
You don't look up, yeah.
Yeah.
as long as they mow the weeds around
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
If you let the weeds grow, that's bad.
Do you need to walk through the checklist before motion?
I suppose. So on the checklist, number one, I guess we've already got that covered with the application we have presented. We have notice of the public hearing done, and this is the public hearing. We need to make a recommendation for the conditional use with or without conditions or denial. We'll figure that out here pretty quick. Make written findings certifying compliance with specific rules. Going over the ingress egress, that's gonna be pretty much the same since it's the existing tower. Same thing with the off right-of-way parking, refuse, utilities, screening, signs, required yards, general compatibility. The only one to really talk about is compatibility since we're adding something to the tower, but really since it's the same thing as what's hanging up there, nobody's really gonna notice. It should be compatible. And I guess since it's an existing tower, I don't really foresee any conditions that would help the public interest. So,
We did require, there was no address for that location, so we did
you did add
require
that.
them to get an E91 address for that entrance.
Okay,
so
so that
that's
wasn't
a-
existing before.
No.
Okay.
I don't know how, but we made them get one.
Okay, so that's reasonable. We've got an address added. Anything else anybody can think of? That's pretty much all there is in the checklist.
Are you okay with the motion?
I'm good with the motion.
Everybody good? I would move to approve the application based on findings of fact. Loest.
Second, Nelson.
Roll call vote when you're ready, Bill.
Barkle,
Yes.
Loest,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes,
Jim? Jim, can you hear me?
Tim, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Please give me a call tomorrow and I'll talk to you about the next step.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for calling in.
No, not a problem. Thanks for allowing me to do it this way. This saved me a very long trip with 2 sick children in the car.
Good luck with the kids.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right, bye.
All right. So that is the end of the agenda except for the Article 29 discussion. Oh, wait,
Plat.
sorry,
plat.
Yankton Land and Cattle Plat. Missed that one.
As you mentioned, they're just surveying off this piece right there. Well, I suppose it's not on this one.
This is just the plat of the
Yep,
rezone that we
correct.
just did.
I was gonna find the, yeah, there you go, right there. So yeah, from the edge of that driveway, that entire piece.
So it doesn't include the driveway, but just the,
Does not include the access off the highway. That's still part of this.
seems pretty straightforward. Already went over it, I guess. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of the plat.
Second,
Right, I have a motion and a second. We can vote when you're ready.
Barkle,
Yes.
Loest,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Weiss.
yes.
All right, now we're on to the Article 29 discussion.
Chris, if it's okay, I'm gonna let you take charge. I'm gonna go back and keep track with notes if you have any changes.
Sure. Maybe we should put it up there.
Or do you want me to stay up here and go through it with you?
I suppose you should stay up there and go through it real quick. I don't think it'd take long. When I was looking over it, the only part that I saw needed a lot of revision was the decommissioning portion. Some of the stuff didn't make it in there.
All right. So we'll just go through the section. Anybody have any comments on 2901?
Yes.
Okay, let me grab my copy.
Sorry, I seem to have pencil all over mine, so I always have something, it seems. So in paragraph A there, really the only thing I would keep is the first sentence, because everything in the second sentence is in B. And forgive me, I'm not one to just have verbiage, just to have verbiage. If you're gonna say it once, you shouldn't have to say it twice. So that second sentence, that depending upon their size, location, preservation of the predominantly rural ag character of the county, all of that is buried in B, because it talks about public health, safety, welfare, the county's review of the application, et cetera, et cetera. I think we do need to be careful to assign things a detriment, because one person's view of something could be positive and the other person's could be negative. And I don't suggest that the county starts using adjectives and adverbs. It's kind of like listening to the news reporters who have adjectives and adverbs in reporting. So I would suggest just keeping the first sentence in A, keeping all of B, and then getting rid of C completely. Because we aren't talking rooftops and structures anymore. That sentence doesn't apply. So that should be removed.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then that next, it's not labeled, it says Yankton County allows domestic CES in specified zoning. That should all be deleted too. Because later on we say in the definition ag and
Yeah, it's pretty much
commercial.
repeated there.
So that paragraph right before the word definitions could be removed as well. Oh, and in that first sentence, the word ground mounted needs to be removed, because we decided not to differentiate between ground and roof. So it's just Yankton County has for solar energy conversion systems.
Yeah, I think that cleans that up pretty good.
Sometimes concise is clear. And I did just have a few comments on the definitions. We ended up with 4 definitions, which I think are good. The agrivoltaics, the last sentence where it says encouraged in commercial and ag, I don't think that should be in there. We're really not encouraging. We're allowing it, but we say that in a different location. So agrivoltaics, I would delete that last sentence in that. I did have a question on the concentrating solar thermal devices. So that's a CSTD. And so we're just gonna call them CSTs, but then the first is CSP. So,
That might have been a typo.
yeah, so I think that CSP needs to be changed to a CST. Would that make sense? Okay. And that's the only comment there. The only place we use it is we're restricting those. We're not letting them come in, so it is important to get that one right. The solar energy definition, no changes. And then when we get to solar energy conversion systems, in here, we need to stay consistent with that SECS. So it says solar energy conversion system, parenthesis, SECS, parenthesis, colon. And then we should start SECS are any combination of solar panels on a parcel of property. And then I would delete everything up until it says not exceeding 50 let me read this again. Combination solar panels exceeding, okay, not exceeding 50 kilowatts AC are permitted uses in all zoning districts. I've got so much crossed out here, it's hard to follow. Period, then SECS, 50 kilowatts AC and over. Because if you don't do it that way, someone comes in with 50, they're caught in between and we don't know what to do with them. So you have to say 50 and over. If that makes sense. And that it kind of shortens it up just a little bit and it tries to make it clear. If you're 49.9999, you're good to go. And if you're 50 or above, you need a CUP. Does that all make sense, Bill?
Does that conflict with the one above it, not exceeding 50 kilowatts? Because that means, that includes 50.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to read here, and
So-
I think that, do you see what I'm trying to say?
We need to
Is,
differentiate between, or what to do with right at 50. If it's over 50,
Yeah.
it needs CUP. If it's under 50, you don't, but what do you do if it is 50? So we need to change the language.
Well, that's the not exceeding 50.
you
That
could
would
just say
include-
under 50 in there.
Yeah.
So essentially, solar
So-
panels on a
solar
parcel of
energy.
property under 50 kilowatts are
So-
permitted,
Yeah,
So
you'd
you want
say-
50 and above to be,
Yeah,
CUP. So it's
so you-
very clear,
so that
50
not exceeding 50
you
should be changed to
solar
something
energy systems
under 50
under
kilograms.
50. I think that would be good, Bill.
Under 50.
And then that aligns with what BY is doing, because when you hit 50, if they come in here and they need a CUP, then we can tell them, you know, at 50, you have to sell all your power. So it kind of helps them too, to understand that that's a trigger point for BY and Basin. Okay,
Makes sense.
Then the next one we go to is the 2911. Does that need to be changed to a lower number, or does it stay 2911, I guess? I don't know.
well, I guess I really didn't look at those. They could all be
It
changed.
could
should
be,
all be
it's not
lowered down.
required because we always leave
Leave
in
room.
case you want to
Bases.
add
It's
something.
something-
Yeah,
So, I don't think it's a requirement, but if you want to, we can.
It doesn't matter. I just thought that was weird that we skipped right to
Yeah.
11. But
and then we go to 19 now, because we got rid of some other stuff.
So 2911 is, you're good with that?
I didn't have any changes there.
Okay. 2919, well, that's, a lot of that was crossed off.
So the title there, 2919, to stay consistent, it should say Solar Energy Conversion
Conversion
Systems Performance Standards.
SECS, gotcha.
do we really need then the next sentence that isn't crossed out? The following shall be submitted for their consideration, SES, conditional use permit? I mean, that's what the performance standards are.
So, don't think that it's, so in this section, I probably had the most, the most, and the reason is, I'm just gonna talk a little bit here. We've got, right now, how the order goes with what we're requiring. We talk about foundations, we have a road maintenance agreement, ground cover, soil erosion, underground installation, height, and we got something called site design requirements, which I think needs change. Endangered species, then we talk about fencing and lighting and noise, and you've got performance standards, signage, aviation, decommission, et cetera. And I think we could maybe organize that a little bit to group things. So when you're going through the application, you're not going, well, wait a minute. And you gotta go back. And so I had made some notes to maybe start that whole group with what is M right now, and that's performance standards. So it would go performance standards, soil erosion and sediment control, because that has to do with construction, then foundations, then underground installation of lines, then the electrical connection plan, which right now is called site design requirements, which could apply, you don't know what that means, and all they're wanting is an electrical plan, a drawing. And then where's F? Oh, height, fencing, where's my H? I was erasing everywhere. Oh, I can't find my H. Oh, ground cover, lighting, noise, signage. Okay, L is aviation protection. M is endangered species. So now you're getting into some more federal things. M. N is road maintenance agreement. Where's O? I don't know where O is. P is decommission plan, and then, where's my Q, liability insurance? Oh, O was the power purchase agreement. That was down there. So that, and then you go Q and R would be liability insurance and indemnity. So you kind of go through, this is the start of my construction. These are some things that height, noise, fencing, things like that. And then at the end, you talk about how do we close this project out. And really all it is reorganizing it. So that's what I would suggest we do now. To make it easier, we should probably just step through and talk about each of those topics. And then you can always shuffle the deck, if you will, afterwards and put it in order. So it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think that this is the hardest part, that when I came to looking at this last part is just so all over the place, and that drives me insane. And I lost my train of thought, what I was gonna say, but yeah, because I'm assuming all of this has to be provided when they apply for the CUP, correct?
And that's the next thing,
Right.
is this whole section, I think we can put into 3 chunks. You've got the application.
Yep,
You've got the facility setback requirements, and then
Yep.
you've got design standards.
yep,
And that application, I went through in that whole list of stuff and put a little star, like foundations. I put a star there because that should be listed on the application. And then underground installation of lines, where are those at? What, a drawing of those. You've got your electrical connection, you've got your endangered species, you should provide that. You should provide on your drawing where your fencing is, where your lighting is. And then, of course, the decommission plan and the liability insurance, the power purchase agreement if you've got one, and then the road thing. So in that whole list of stuff we're expecting them under design standards, some of those things need to be provided in the application. So when you list your application, you've got your owners, managers, legal description, you got a site diagram that includes underground power lines, electrical connections, fences, lighting. Those should all be listed there. And then you've got, your surface water drainage patterns could be on that. You've got your roadway maintenance agreement, and of course, you've got your decommission plan and your liability insurance and indemnity and all of
Yeah,
that.
because I think it all needs to be up front.
So-
Because if you don't ask for it up front, you're not, I don't think you're ever gonna get it.
Yep, because right now, how it's listed is, they
It
don't have
sound-
to have those in the
No,
application.
exactly, that, and that's what
And
I was, that's
so-
what was my question, because that's what was confusing me, is like, it sounds like they don't need to provide this to get the application. And I'm like, no, I want, as sitting here as a
Right.
board, I wanna know all this before
Right.
we grant a CUP, make sure they have their ducks in a row.
Yep, so you got a list, this is the application, and down below, this is the explanation of it.
Yep.
This is what it means.
Yep, I agree.
If that makes sense there.
So you got that, Bill?
I'll watch
Well,
the video. Well, my thought was, listening to Sherry, was when we ask for this list of things, it's almost we should ask for it chronologically as they were going to do the project.
Right.
Start with who's the owners and all that stuff. How are you gonna build it? How's it gonna be laid out? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about endangered species?
Yep.
And the end is the decommission, what happens at the end. And so make everything
Yeah.
chronological as they were going to plan their project.
Yep, and then just
So-
to clean up the wording at the beginning of these performance standards so that it's clear that all this is required for the application,
Yeah.
not just,
And this would be Gary's decision. I almost think we need to have a form, a checklist form for them that's got everything you need, and you submit it, we'll check it off. You submit it, we check it off. And-
yeah, and if it follows our ordinance, then that makes it easier for us and makes it easier for them.
Well, yeah, and you know when you get the application at the meeting, you can see we've got everything in the file.
It's like your plat checklist,
Exactly.
Yeah.
really.
Yep. Yep. And that way there's no confusion. Everybody's
Yeah.
knows exactly what they're gonna have to provide. No, there's no difference between anybody else. Here it is, you either give it or you don't.
Yep.
Yep. And we could probably create a separate application on geo permits that they have to upload and check all that. But either way, I think we need to have a list of those things to go through. It's just too much for an application to just wing it.
So other than reorganizing it and cleaning up the wording on as far as that it's required for the application and all that, is there anything you guys have for input on the actual performance standards themselves?
Can I backtrack a minute? So,
Yep.
Sherry, if you wouldn't mind emailing what you thought, and then we'll work through it and see if we can come up with the flow that seems to kind of chronologically
Yep.
step through it.
And I think the next meeting, we should get rid of everything that is crossed out.
Please,
Yeah.
that's so
Because,
distracting.
because right now, none of that wording is in our current ordinance.
Yep.
You know, we've been keeping track of it because we've been
So you want
tinkering.
You want a fresh
Playing.
draft?
Yes, with
We
just-
wanted, and this is a whole new section, so there should be nothing crossed off. And whenever we make a change in the future, we don't keep that, we just, it's all, this is what the wording is going to be, so, and then we know what's in and what's not on there. Let's see if I had
Makes
any.
sense. Chris, you said, I'm sorry, you said you had a lot on the decommissioning?
Yeah, the portion on the decommissioning.
Before we go to that, because that's the next section, let's, the noise. Noise levels measured at the property line shall not exceed 50 decibels when located adjacent to an existing residence or residential district. I don't like the word adjacent. What does that mean to you?
Property
Next door.
lines are
Is that
connected.
50 feet off the property line, or is that 2,000 feet down the road?
So be specific.
So if we're setting a 50 decibel level, it shouldn't matter.
At the
Right.
location?
It should just be 50 decibels. So noise
Regardless
levels
of where
measured at
you
the
measure.
property line shall not exceed 50 decibels. And I would leave it at that. Whether somebody lives there or not, they could have I could be planning to build a house there tomorrow. or whatever, but it just makes it cleaner, then no one has to interpret that word. So, yep, oh, so there's, go ahead on your decommission then, because I've got some comments on that too, so go ahead.
So I guess the portion on the decommission plan, or maybe I guess it ties into like the bond and the surety requirements. We were talking at our solar meetings about doing an escrow account in conjunction with the bond and having the escrow start at, basically they have to put in 50% of what the decommissioning cost would be into escrow, and then increase that by 5% each year until it reaches 100%, and then as well as updating their cost estimate every 5 years, which I saw that made it in here. Maybe needs to be a little bit cleaned up, but basically start with 50%, increase 5% each year into that escrow, so you actually have the money sitting in a bank account in escrow, and then adjusting it for inflation periodically with the cost estimate update. And basically, well, whatever you've got in escrow doesn't need to be part of the bond, and as your escrow increases, your bond can decrease, was kind of the idea of it, but I didn't see any of this escrow talk in here. The reason for that is, I guess, John brought it up, felt most strongly about it, that bonds aren't very secure, so an escrow account would assure that there was funds there. And trying to work with people a little bit, because it's a large cost to put all up front, starting out at 50% and then increasing it over time.
Do you define what's included in decommissioning costs?
Yeah, so the decommissioning costs estimate, let's see, I guess it's just that it needs to be prepared by a professional engineer, needs to be updated. I guess it doesn't, we don't have included in there the different types of things to include in the decommissioning. I don't know if that needs to be spelled out.
What?
I guess
We
it does say provisions for removal of all structures, including equipment, fencing, roads, foundations, restoration of soil and vegetation, ensuring financial resources will be available, disposal.
You could create a definition of decommissioning and just state, putting it back to its original status, or, because that's what decommissioning is supposed to be, taking everything back to where it was when it started, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea, I think.
Yeah.
And I guess we do have a sentence on that here, sort of. I don't know if you guys think that's adequate. If you scroll down a little bit there, Bill. It's right, the plan shall include right there.
I don't know if you want that. Some of the ones I read refer to taking it back to its original condition, original state. That kind of takes the guess out of it. You got to take everything that you put in, take it out. Take it back to where it was. Just a thought.
We could do that by adding a definition of decommission.
I believe so. Or you could put it, you could put it in here too as another sentence. To end it, where was that at?
What if it was a solar farm beforehand? Are you gonna decommission it back to the previous solar farm?
Well, if it was previously a solar farm, then when they took over, they would have to update their commission plan, if I understood what was
Right.
talked about. So then the new owners would be responsible for the decommission.
I believe there was a sentence on
Yeah,
that
there
in here.
is. I read it just
So
now.
you're
Apple-
decommissioning back to a natural state.
Yes.
Yes. And I was gonna say, you know, you could put in the sentence something about taking it back to its original state, which includes removal of all structures, and list all those things.
Yeah, I think that'd be good to add in there.
That seemed to be a consistent one in all the ones I read, that referring to something about taking it back to its original state.
Then there was also talk at the solar commission about adding in there some kind of language where the landowner that is leasing the land out to a solar farm or whatever would also be ultimately responsible.
That's in here
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's in
I guess I didn't see that. Maybe I just missed it.
it's in
No, it's,
parentheses or something. Yeah, I just saw it.
yeah, it's in here, I read it.
Oh, right there, in the
Oh,
third paragraph
yeah.
down, the red.
Which says, note, landowner is ultimately responsible and could have a lien put on property if shortage on decommissioning costs. Right here,
Yeah, right there.
big note.
Okay, yep.
In our meeting, did we decide that if it's, the solar farm is sold to another company, does the next company have to come in and get a CUP, or does a CUP continue on?
The CUP continues on
Do we
unless they
have
change
that-
something.
Do we have that wording in there somewhere?
But all
'Cause in our-
CUPs can't be sold within
5 years, right?
So they would have to have been in existence and functioning for 5 years before somebody else could come in and take them over. But
Mm-hmm. 'Cause we were
I
talking-
didn't see here, maybe, but I listened to the meetings and I thought you talked about if it was sold
Yeah,
or transferred, that the decommissioning had to be, and maybe I missed it.
It's in here.
The decommissioning had to be updated.
Yeah, exactly.
right,
Yeah.
but so that's what I'm saying, is that it talks about if it's sold or successor and decommissioning, but nowhere in the rest of our, does it say anything about that the CUP, that,
You
Well,
don't
they'd be-
have to reapply for
They'd
a
be
CUP.
bound by the conditions of the first CUP.
okay, do we need to state that though, in it?
No.
No,
That-
that's how
already in
they,
the
that's how they
ordinance.
all work,
Okay.
the CUPs.
Yep.
Yeah, basically if they would sell it after the 5 years, then they just have to update the decommission plan and continue to conform with all the previous conditions.
Correct.
Sounds like a lot of lawsuits coming.
Could outlaw 'em. That'd probably be a lawsuit too.
So what defines what'll happen if they just walk away from it?
Well, they've got to have skin in the game by the money they've got invested.
In the escrow.
And if that doesn't cover it, then it's back on the landowner. So the landowners need to be aware that if the company they work with bails, they're gonna be the ones that are responsible. So they're gonna have to make sure everything is on the level.
And basically the idea of this escrow is that after you'd have 10 years of operation, there should be enough in escrow to cover the full decommission plan where you don't have to rely on the bond or anything. But
I was just thinking about building projects that were going on here in town now where once they get into the process, they're finding things that were not covered 40 years ago, and now it's all of a sudden it's increased the cost of construction $500,000 or $1 million. And I don't know how you write it so that you can protect yourself against that.
Well, I guess they have to update the decommission plan every 5 years and then basically up the money in escrow by that amount.
But the thing is, you can write any damn thing you want in the thing, but when it comes to enforcing it, how do you enforce it?
I guess one way we can cover it is we have it wrote in here that the county can hire a third party to review that plan, and they have to pay for our review to make sure it's adequate. But I guess other than that, we have bond and we have what's in escrow, and I don't know what else we can actually do.
Is the concern them bailing when they're building it or after they've built it? Because most of the time, there's a lot of government subsidies when they're building it, correct? So it's more likely after it's built and running that they would have.
As soon as they get their write-offs, they're gonna be gone.
Yeah, for the
Yeah,
tax credit,
that's true.
for the tax credits, you have to complete construction and then you get it on the completion. So if you were going to bail, you would, if you were just looking for the financial incentive, you would probably finish it and then abandon.
And if it's finished, hopefully somebody else would be willing to come in and,
If it's
Take it
finished, you would
over.
hope that it's a functioning asset that could be sold or have some kind of value.
yeah. It's a big roll of the dice.
I just brought up the what ifs.
Yeah.
Because there'll be a lot of them that fail, and there'll be a lot of issues that have to be addressed by the public.
Well, there's the windmills. They said there's a record number of windmills that are failing right now. And so they're running into the same thing, that you
That's,
see some of those people maybe bail.
Are they
That's why I
reaching
talked
like
to Gary
10 or
about
20
it.
years,
Well,
or?
they're supposed to, I think, reach 20, but a lot of them aren't making 10.
The frequency?
They're just,
I think I read someplace in one of the tips of the windmills are worn out in the
Yeah.
first year.
yeah. I've seen pictures where they just, where they connect to the main tower, they just collapse, break off, whatever reason. But they said it's having a record number, and so you gotta wonder how that's gonna affect that.
It's,
I'd be curious to see what the percentage is, because
Yeah.
20 years ago, we didn't have towers like we do now. So the, 5 back then versus 50 now, it could be a lot less failure than what it was. The percentage is really what you should look at.
well, I was approached by a wind tower company to put on some of our farm ground up north. And at that time, which was 15 years ago, they were projecting 50 years.
Wow.
50 years. Now we're down to 20 years.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, and that's why we didn't put because we have a CUP for a wind turbine, and we figured in 20 years, we'd have to climb that tower, and that wasn't gonna happen. So now we just have to get on the roof. But I don't know if anybody saw, I don't know if the P&D's published it yet, but the Rapid City housing development, that's all supposed to be run on solar.
Sioux Falls just announced a housing development that they're
Solar,
put a big solar farm up by it
yep,
to reduce the cost of living there.
yeah,
So they can make interest payments.
yep. So it's gonna be 15 acres of solar panels in Rapid City.
When we wrap this up, I would like to just visit a little bit with this group about the process that we went through on this.
So are we good with all the changes that we can look at, and you'll send a copy
I
of
will
those?
put all of my notes together and send it to you. I don't know if I'll get it done tomorrow.
That's right, Gary's the one that's gonna do the version, and he's gone to the,
Oh,
Um,
okay,
till
Here.
Thursday,
okay.
Sioux Falls, yet. So, you're up.
So, with a combined team of commissioners and planning committee, did that work? Did that help? Does it shorten the time?
I think it shortened the time because the last time that we met here, we didn't have virtually any of this kind of talked about really. We kind of had a version that we copy and pasted from somewhere else. We didn't really go over it and talk about it, and we had, 4 or 5 meetings with the,
5, oh, no, 4. 4.
okay, yeah, 4. And then, so we basically did 4 months' work that would have, at a minimum, would have taken us 4 months at the planning commission, maybe longer, depending on what else got put on the agenda.
And
We're able to reduce that down to a month.
will you take this process to the commission, people that were on the committee, to have them review the changes that you guys have recommended in here?
No, typically, we just get it organized in the planning commission, have a hearing, and then take it to the county commission.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
and
Because the task force was just, that was their duty,
Okay.
they're done, now we just move forward.
Okay,
You know, and I think the biggest achievement of having a combination of the county commission and the planning commission was to tackle the big issues, the overarching, you know, how are you gonna handle the decommissioning? That was a big one. The setbacks, what size do we want to monitor? That really was probably the biggest thing, because this team here could have worked for 6 months, got a plan and went to the commission. They go, well, I don't think we should do it that way. And then it all comes back. So I think right away you're getting a little bit of feedback. And I think our next step, and I'm trying to think the next meeting, we'll go over this again. That'll be October. November, I would think, would be our public hearing.
Yeah, that's, I guess, what I would have in mind.
So within that, I would highly encourage the county commission to review what we've got, and if they see alarm bells, to give
Okay.
feedback at the October, November, because we can still make changes at that public hearing in November. We can still
Right.
change setbacks. I know setbacks, I've been asked by community members to continue talking about those. And then if November we have our hearing, the county commission can be hearing it in December, January, February and stuff. But I think it did, to Chris's point, it tidies things up a little bit. There's a lot fewer unknowns at the end.
I wanna get to go on wind towers.
Wind towers,
What,
Long before this is final.
yeah.
It's not necessarily the same group of people that have to be involved. I just think if the combination of the two working together, it shortcuts.
What
And
I think-
one thing about wind is we already have a
We already have a-
whole thing.
Yeah.
And really the goal there is to say
Revise
what
it.
needs to be
Yeah,
changed.
that's not gonna be nearly as bad, because, like you said, you already have an ordinance, you already have a game plan.
Right.
It's just going in and changing the place, you know?
And then also you got some of the stuff that we just did with the solar that could carry over to the wind.
Yeah, once the indemnification and all of that
Well,
Done.
we
bonds
need to
and
get
stuff
it
gets
done.
set.
Yep.
And
What I-
and after that, we probably wanna
take a break?
look at pipelines.
Well, we've been pretty good with pipelines, though. I mean, it's
What I was gonna
been-
say is, what I noticed is, just the way it was set up, you got a lot more public comment at the start. And you got some people that had some experience and knowledge, were able to give input at the start of it, so that when you got to this point, you had a bunch of feedback already, as opposed to waiting until you get to a public hearing, then get a bunch of feedback, and then got a second guess what you've done.
Well, I appreciate everything planning committee has done on it. Thank you.
Is there any reason why we can't start with wind, even as we're doing solar, why we can't?
We could talk about it next month.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody can review it and bring your
See-
ideas.
See
and-
what piques your interest, or what things
We
you
can
want
discuss
changed.
anything on this, or just, as long as we don't take action, we
Right.
can discuss,
Yeah.
just put it on the agenda as a discussion item, and,
Okay.
so you want that on the October agenda as a
If we
discussion?
can do it.
I think so.
Yeah, I
If
think-
Gary can get it, if you two guys can get
Come
this thing final the way you want it final, in the order, in the time frame you want, and we
Yeah.
can get started on this other one,
I don't know how
I-
much Gary's got on his schedule, so we'll have to see.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be a good thing to have done in March or something.
So
Or at
you-
least come up with some suggestions for changes to the ordinance, and then everybody else can throw their ideas in, and then, yeah.
So the next draft that we see is not gonna have anything crossed off or nothing in red or
Right.
black, it's all
That's what-
just gonna be,
That's what you want, is you want
Yes.
what would look like a
Clean draft.
final draft.
yes,
With-
So then we can
yeah.
go from, yeah, thank you.
Yep, yep. Because when you think about it, November, December is party time. I mean, really, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you got school stuff,
It's
People
busy.
church
traveling.
stuff.
Busy.
It's just crazy that time, so
We're
you.
talking December already?
I
Yeah,
know,
it's not long.
I know.
Start thinking about planting a garden
Snow.
pretty soon.
I'm gonna buy my seeds again here, so.
But yeah, by having that task force, I mean, we shortened this up to be able to get it to the county commission by December for their first public hearing on it, as opposed to probably June next year.
Or us doing 5-6 hour meetings.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to do that.
Well, I think it benefits when you do it weekly, so you have time to think about it, come back right away and discuss it instead of taking a month and then, what was that?
And you're looking at a little chunk at a time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We
Yeah.
broke it down into,
Yeah.
And you don't have
Chunks.
5 other things on the agenda to talk about
yeah.
Yeah.
that aren't.
I
related.
agree, the weekly was, because it was fresh on your mind. I mean, it seems like eternity since we met on those. I mean, seriously, I was thinking
Yes.
about that, seems like, so it's nice to meet each week.
Okay.
So I would
Thank
call
you
it a
for the
success,
input.
Don.
Well, does anybody else have any input on this draft, or are we gonna let Bill work on it a little bit here? If there's nothing else, is there any public comment? No public comment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Loest.
Second, Nelson.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.
Good job, guys. Real good job. Oh, signatures?
Yeah, I almost forgot. I seem to have to come back to the office a lot to do that.
So Saturday I got to talk to John Ball, and I'm assuming you know who John Ball is, SDSU. And
He's a
so
character.
it was senior day up at SDSU, and my son let me went out there and visited and stuff, and he says grasshoppers are everywhere. All over the state, no matter where
We
you
don't
go.
have 'em
Senate,
much.
Everybody's.
I didn't have any on my phone.
You had no, you,
Ours are terrible.
you are, you're not.
I'll
I-
see,
I'm not
walk around
kidding.
the yard, I'll maybe see two.
I didn't have any squash
Yeah.
bugs or anything on my pumpkins until right at the very
Yeah,
end.
see, I didn't have any bugs or anything like squash bugs or potato bugs bad. It was grasshoppers.
Blister beetles.
They eat a lot too, don't they? Somebody said they even eat paint and stuff off of,
There was a couple posts on Facebook last year, because some places had it really bad, and they opened up the bean after they were harvesting, and it was just grasshoppers falling out. Just so many grasshoppers.
Yeah, but he said, yeah, except for your garden, there's grasshoppers everywhere.
I had a grasshopper in my shoe.
Yes.
that was everything.
One of my, yeah, one of my,
Oh, very good.
yes, and you squished it?
Just
No,
been
I
big a
kept
couple weeks ago.
feeling something rattling in my shoe.
I'm telling you, my farm is a different
Yeah, we had a
zone.
teacher that
Well,
got
I guess she's been
out
home
of
for
the playground.
days.
The grasshopper got in her sandal and she stepped on
Good.
it. And so then she comes
Short
and
as
she's
the
got,
night.
grasshopper got
Short
all
as
over her sandal. and
The
her
secret
sandal.
is to have your
So-
wife nurse.
Yeah,
We just have
I've
the
been doing that. The last few months have been a challenge.
eating grasshoppers.
Oh, that's a great process, it's fun.
Oh, so our
Yeah, it's
chickens,
good.
the chickens are fun to watch. Cause they'll get a grass